Hello. Hi everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. So we are starting our webinar now. I know there are many people who still haven't come in yet. But I think it's already 7:06, so we will start. Okay. Just check. Teacher Tony can hear me, right?
Yep, Paul's good.
Okay. All right. Yep. Okay. So we will start now. Okay, once again, welcome to our webinar. So today's topic we are discussing, is regarding choosing the right subject combination. So we will be sharing a lot of things tonight. At the end, we will have a short Q&A session, and we will also have a FAQ session as well. So really thanks for taking your time off to attend this seminar. This seminar is especially important for Sec 2 students going to Sec 3, right? And I don't know if the students are sitting in this webinar as well, but so I know that many of the students here, some of them want to seek a second opinion, right? There are also some who do not have a rough idea of what they want to do, what they want to choose, right? So they are here for this seminar. Of course, there are also some students here who will be sitting in this seminar because their parents want them to see in, right? Yeah, but don't worry, right? Because I'm pretty sure you will have something that you can take away from this seminar. Right, so I see that there's 2 questions. So let me take a look at the questions first before I start. Please hang on. I received some requests to enable the chat function. How do I do that? Hang on. Info.
I have adjusted it already, the chat function. Now all of them should be able to participate.
Okay, thanks, Tony. All right, so let's start. Okay, so introduction of the speakers for tonight. Okay, so myself, I'm teacher Teddy. Okay, I'm the BlueTree's head of department for secondary science. Okay, a little bit about myself, my education journey, right? So I started off in Catholic High Primary, moved on to Catholic High Secondary, right? When I was in Catholic High School, I took double science. I actually had this chance and opportunity to take triple science, but I decided that I didn't want to take triple science because of the heavy workload. So I chose double science instead. I took a pure humanities as well. So usually students who take triple science, right, they will not be taking pure humanities. So for myself, I took double science and 1 pure humanities. So my double science were chemistry and physics because to me, I felt that it was more relevant at that point in time. Afterwards, I moved on to Nanyang JC, whereby I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. So instead of going into either science stream or art stream, I chose to do a hybrid stream, meaning half science and half arts, right? Okay, and afterwards I went on to NUS. I studied communication science and communication studies. Yep, and then here I am now. Okay, giving the time to teacher Tony.
Hello everyone, this is teacher Tony, and I'm a math and science teacher with for BlueTree Secondary. So my journey is a little bit different from teacher Teddy. So what happened? What I did was, okay, this is the only similar part between us. Okay, I also took double science in secondary school. I was in Queenstown, so I took physics and chemistry because I just felt that it was easier to score. To be honest, okay, let's be honest, physics it's easier to score if you like calculations and math and all that. And I took chemistry because again it's compulsory, and I didn't take triple science because I just felt that 7 subjects is good enough. I didn't want to take 8 subjects, right? And I moved on to Nanyang Poly. I took a diploma in accountancy, so it was quite a good call because in the end, because I took accountancy, your sciences doesn't really matter so much. So that's something that I'll cover on later. So the sciences you should take really should be focused on, should be based on what you intend to take in the future. So because I did accountancy, so it's not really that much of it wasn't that crucial, right? And then I moved on to take my degree in the UK. in business management. And then, just 2 years back, because of COVID, nothing to do, right? So I decided to take a master's in international relations in NTU. Yeah, and here I am now with BlueTree.
Okay, thank you. So moving on, right? So this is the table of content for tonight. So we will be sharing the basic streaming information, and there will be a subject analysis, and then we will be sharing what are some of the most common combinations, subject combinations. Following that, there will be a short activity time followed by a break. After the break, there will be a Q&A session, and we will end it off with a FAQ, okay? Frequently asked questions. Okay, so without further ado, so what is Sec2 streaming? Okay, I'm pretty sure everybody here should know what Sec2 streaming. Okay, but for formality's sake, let me just give a brief intro again. So at the end of Sec2, right, all students, right, they have to select their subject combi. Okay, either they're going to be taking 6 subjects, either they're going to be taking 8, 7, right, or even 9 subjects, right? So these subjects that you chose, right, eventually will be the ones that you'll be taking examinations for, right? So if you look at the bottom, right, these are just some examples from some of the combinations that they have. Like for example, the first column over here, you can see there's a triple science subject combi. And then moving towards the right side, you see they are all double sciences, right? And then there are also pure humanities. So you can see that there's 9 subjects, 8 subjects and stuff like that, right? If you notice one thing common throughout is the choice of whether they want to take A-Math, okay? A-Math or E-Math. So usually for A-Math and all the sciences, right, all the pure sciences, there are some prerequisite, okay? It's based on the students' merit for their Sec2 results. For students, please, okay, Sec2 streaming is really important. It is really not about choosing your next year's classmate, choosing your new classmates for your Sec3 and Sec4, okay? I have students telling me, hey, teacher, if I choose this subject combination, then I will be different class from my friends. How? So they will be, these are actually some of their concerns, but please, okay, choose based on your interests instead of selecting your friends. Okay, next. So the importance of streaming, right? Because quite clearly, right, your subjects chosen will definitely affect your post-secondary options, okay? It will affect your subjects that you can take in junior college. It will affect your courses in polytechnic and university as well, okay? And one thing that I personally like to stress, I believe having a good work-play balance, okay? Study-play balance for students is very important. So you have to ensure that the combination is well-balanced. It's something that you presume that you can manage, right? There's no point trying to stuff yourself with everything and then afterwards failing everything, right? And also, it's also important to understand yourself, okay? What's your strength? What's your weakness? Okay? And sometimes these are some questions you do not ask yourself. But actually, right, if you were to ask your parents, okay, they probably know what's your strength and what's your weakness, okay? So do speak to your parents, okay? These are some stuff that they definitely know because they watch you grow up, right? Okay, so align your subject combinations to your strength and weakness. That's one thing that you can consider as well. Okay, so below there are just some examples. Okay, so let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, today I am very interested. I know right now I'm 14 years old. I'm very interested in aerospace engineering. Okay, so if you look at aerospace engineering, you can see that some of the prerequisite below is a H2 level pass in math. Okay, so they also see that there's a H2 level pass in physics, chemistry, or bio. So what is H2, right? So basically H2 is a level in JC. So in JC, the subjects will be band between H1, H2, and H3, right? So most students will be taking H2. And then if, let's say, H2, of course, is harder, right? H1 is slightly easier, okay? So for aerospace engineering, it requires a H2 level pass in math. Okay, but why am I bringing this point out? Okay, because I'm showing you that there's a ripple effect. So now take a look at the picture on the left, okay, under Catholic Junior College. So look at the H2 math in Catholic Junior College, right? Under one of the remarks section, they write, students who intend to offer H2 math are assumed to have knowledge of A math at O levels. Okay, so what they are saying is, for you to take H2 math in JC, right, you need to have A math. There comes the importance of streaming, right? Because if you chose to not do A math because you think that A math is very tough, or you don't like A math in general, you don't like math in general, then you decided not to do A math. In the future, when you want to go to any engineering courses or degree, right? So there'll be an issue, lah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, next. So now we are going on into the subject analysis, right? This subject analysis, we will actually rank some of the subjects that we think are easier to score, less time for revision, and the relevance to JC. Okay, so the first subject that we'll be going through is additional math. So A-math, right? So what is A-math? In general, A-math is about algebra, geometry, trigonometry, and calculus, right? At this point in time, any student here, if let's say you know what is calculus, what is trigonometry, okay, I must say that, okay, you are a bit scary, okay, because these are all Sec 3 topics, right? And they are additional math topics. So you have no reason to know calculus now. So if you know them, you're actually pretty good start, I guess. Yeah. So A-math, right, it really provides a solid foundation for most of the JC H2 math. Majority of the JC out there, right, their H2 math require you to take A-math. If you didn't take A-math, you may not have a chance to take H2 math in JC. And then, of course, it's widely known that almost all engineering courses and almost all computer science courses in polytechnics and university requires A-math as well. Okay, so for A-math, right, I would coin it as we consider it as a very tough subject. Okay. However, what we notice is that for exam questions, right, for O-level A-math questions, the steps are very systematic, right? In school, the teachers will always teach you step 1 is this, step 2 is this, for this kind of question and stuff like that. Okay. But what we also realize is right now, in the exam syllabus, there is a lot of application questions. Okay. And because of application, it becomes very wide. Okay, it becomes very wide. And then it also becomes very non-routine. So there'll be many instances, yes, even though they are testing the same concept, but because it's applied to a different situation, the students sometimes will get taken aback, right? Okay. So why do we say that it has a very steep learning curve, right? Because A-math, to be honest, yes, it's difficult, right? To put it in a sense, right, I do not think that everybody out here, okay, can appreciate art, right? There are some people who can really appreciate art. There are some people who can't appreciate art, right? So in the same sense, A-math is like that. There are some students who have the aptitude to do A-math very well. Okay, there are some students who, no matter how hard they try, they just can't always get A, right? But that being said, of course, to do well in A-math, you really need consistent effort, right? But I just want to share, right? I know people who study a lot, okay, but their A-math still don't do well, okay. But at the other side of the spectrum, I also know that there are some people out there, after studying and after revising for putting in consistent effort, they found the sweet spot, okay, and then they start to realize that, actually A-math is quite easy, okay, yeah. So let's look at the ranking now. So difficulty wise, right, we rank it 9 upon 10, okay, because it requires aptitude. Not everybody can handle A-math, okay, this is a fact. Okay, but of course, with some consistent effort, okay, and studying smart, I'm pretty sure this is something that most students can try to overcome. Okay, time needed for revision is 7 upon 10. This ranking over here is relative to other subjects that we're going through later. So for our ranking is 7 upon 10. Okay, and the relevance to JC, in our opinion, is 10 out of 10. Okay, it's 10 out of 10. Yeah. So over here is just an example of the question. So is A-math a must for H2 math in JC? We would say a resounding yes. Okay, so it's a must. Okay, now we move on to the next subject. Okay, teacher Tony, you can take over.
Right, thank you. Hello. So let's talk about the 3 sciences now. I'll start with the first and most important one. Okay, there's a reason why we put chemistry first. So chemistry, let's talk about the pure one first. So it is the compulsory science that all schools must take. When I say compulsory, I mean that you must take it regardless as either as a pure or as a combined science, chemistry. So what is it about actually? So chemistry is really about study of all the matter in the observable universe. So things that you would study will include experiments. You do some experiments to test for some gases, the presence of some gases, presence of some chemicals. You also learn the atomic structure of all the atoms, molecules, mixtures, compounds, right? And you also learn about chemical reactions, acid bases, energy changes, and also organic chemistry, right? Like alcohol, fermentation and all that. So this is what chemistry is all about. So it is, if you think about it, it's actually the sort of like the central pillar, right, among the 3 branches of science. So because it involves a bit of living things, like a bit of biology, and also involve a bit of physics, right, with all the energy and all that. So that's the reason why in Singapore context is considered a central pillar of science. So everybody must take, you can't run away from it. And it is compulsory for not just a medicine school, but it's compulsory for all the science stream in JC. So if let's say you must go to JC, okay, if your parents or you're a parent yourself, you're the kind you tell your kids, okay, you either go to JC science stream or you won't come home, then yes, you must pass your chemistry, because if you don't have chemistry either as combined or as pure, if you don't pass it, then you're blocked. Okay, you're locked out of the science stream. You can only go art stream in JC or courses in the polytechnic. So it's very important. And if you want to be a doctor, definitely you want to go into science stream, right? And yes, so medicine school and all dentistry, all this would require your chemistry to be good as well. Okay, so again, yes, sorry, teacher Shemi, I can't see the slides.
Hi, sorry, I'm lagging, is it?
Yeah, okay, now it's good. Yeah, we're good now. All right, can everyone hear me? All right, okay, let me just continue from where I stopped. So yeah, so chemistry requires you to know a bit of math as well, because you need to calculate chemical equations, you need to balance them, and you need to remember some theory as well. So of course, this the difficulty and all that, out of 10, it's really subjective. Like for me, if you ask me personally, I would think that it is not difficult, and I didn't take a lot of time to revise because I was very interested in chemistry. So I listened. That I had a very good teacher, so I didn't have to do a lot of revision on my end. So this is all subjective. Okay, but as a collective whole, checking with all our students and us teachers having sort of like a discussion, we feel that it's an 8 out of 10 in terms of difficulty, because you need a bit of like physics knowledge and a bit of biology knowledge as well for chemistry. And therefore the time needed for revision is also relatively high, 8 out of 10, because you need to know both sides, right? You have to memorize and you need to apply the formulas. And it is very relevant to JC and 8 out of 10. Okay, because as I mentioned, if you don't have chemistry, you can't go into science stream. So you are locked out of it, and you can only go to art stream, right? And you can only take art courses when you're in the university. Okay, so that is why chemistry is so important. Right, let's move on to the second science, physics. All right, I'm not sure whether teacher Shenmin can hear me. Okay, never mind. Let me just continue even if the slides is not there. Okay, so I've memorized the content. Right, so physics, right, on the other hand, as you can see, teacher Shenming and I, both of us took physics, right, as our second science for our double science subject. The reason is because physics is relatively easy to score. Oh, okay. I guess he's dropped off the line. No worries. So let me just continue sharing. I have a copy of the slides here as well. Oh, okay, he's back. All right, let's just give him like a minute or two to get the slides back in order. But yeah, so there's a reason why we took physics, right, in our secondary school. It's because it's relatively easy to score. So normally I tell students, if you're taking E-Math, and since you're taking E-Math, you can't escape, you might as well just take physics, because some of the formulas is the same, right? Acceleration and velocity, you learn that as well, right? We call it speed in E-Math. So there's sort of like an overlap. So the knowledge that you have, it can be used for both subjects, right? So it's quite relevant to what you are studying. And physics itself, okay, the things you would study is of course more than just speed. You will learn about density, forces, energy, light, sound, electricity, and all that. So it's quite useful, as you can imagine, for engineering courses. So regardless of whatever kind of engineering you have, especially the mechanical machinery kind, yeah, you will require physics, definitely. So it is among the three sciences, okay, you will require the least amount of memory. So I was just telling teacher Shenming the other day that I got an A1 for both my physics and chemistry, but I took a lot less time to master physics. All I did, for the exam was I just memorized all the formulas and all the definition. I went in and I could ace the exam because there's just most of it's just calculation. If you know how to apply the formulas, you're all good. Okay, so that's why we think in terms of difficulty, it's a bit lower, okay, compared to chemistry, because it's a lot of just application. Like you don't have to memorize a lot, and therefore, as a result, the time needed for revision is also relatively lower because there's nothing much to memorize. The only thing you need is just a formula and your definition, and everything else will just flow. Okay, and its relevance to JC is also relatively high, 8 out of 10, because if you want to go into science stream, physics is really important as well, because a lot of people who graduate from JC to go on to university, the courses they take usually are hard sciences, so physics will really, really help in your university choices as well. Okay, and let's move on to the last science, biology. Yeah, all right. So biology is the last one, the last branch of science. It's all about the study of living things, right? So you learn about cells, the movement of substances like nutrition, transport, right, and respiration between plant cells, in human cells. You also learn about reproduction. You learn about genes and all that. So I'm sure you can quite appreciate, right, the importance of biology, especially during the COVID pandemic, and how they've used a new form of vaccine, right, the mRNA vaccine, which is a form of biological component, right? They've moved on from the traditional chemical sort of based vaccine, and they moved into more biotech kind of vaccine. So biology has sort of seen a resurgence, okay, in its importance. So still, it is very important. But the thing about biology is that it is very, very content heavy. So you need to memorize a lot of things. So a joke that I always tell my students is that physics and chemistry is easier to memorize because the things you learn in physics and chemistry, the terms you learn, you get to use them in day-to-day life, right? We would say things like electricity, sound, gravity in day-to-day life. We would say forces, right? We would say sound. We would say things like acid. We would say things like molecules in day-to-day life. But no one goes around saying that, oh, I'm very tired today. Maybe my mitochondria are not working very well. No one does that, right? So things like mitochondria, rough endoplasmic reticulum, stuff like that, we don't have a chance to use it in day-to-day life. So you really have to study for that subject just for the exam. Okay, it's not something you can practice in daily life. So that's the reason why I feel it requires a very active effort to memorize. So that's why you need 10 out of 10, okay, in terms of your time needed. So there's a good and bad. If you're very good in memory, then this is a subject for you. And so the good thing is you don't really require a lot of analysis. You just need to be able to sort of list down the correct information. So they will ask you what happens if you have deficient in this, and what happens if that is not working properly, what will happen. So it's really just about memorizing. Okay, and in terms of relevance to JC, we rate it lower, 4 out of 10, because as I mentioned earlier, contrary to popular belief, you do not need biology to go into medicine school. Okay, so this is for those of you who want to be doctors, or for those of you whose parents hold the view that you're either a doctor, a lawyer, or a failure. So you must be a doctor, right? If not, you can't go home. So if that's the case, yes, a lot of people think that biology is needed. Yes, it is very useful. Okay, it's definitely very useful, but it is not a compulsory subject for entry into our medicine school. So we have two in Singapore, right? We have the Yong Lu Lin School of Medicine in NUS, and we have the Lee Kong Chian School of Medicine in NTU. So I've checked both of their websites, and their entry requirement is you must have a H2 pass in chemistry, right? And a pass in either physics or biology. So that's the reason why it is not sort of a compulsory subject. But of course, I've asked some of my friends who are doctors, and they say that, of course, if you have biology, it will make it a lot easier when you're studying your first few years in medicine school. If not, you really have to like sort of bridge yourself, because they're not going to give you extra, they're not going to teach you from the very basic of cells, right, and all that. So that's the reason why a lot of students take biology if they're aiming for medicine school, dentistry school, right, all the life sciences. But I think it's important to point out the fact that it is not compulsory, even though it can be very useful. All right. Okay, let's move on to combined sciences instead. So when do you take combined science and when do you take pure, right? I think a lot of students, the struggle is not just about which science to take, but also about whether I should take it as a pure subject or whether I should take it as a combined subject. So let me help you to answer this question. So as we mentioned so much earlier about pure sciences, they are really useful if you intend to go into like JC science stream, okay? Because the gap from pure science to H1, H2, physics, chemistry, it's lower compared to combined science, right? Because as you can see from the slide, combined science, you only learn about 80% of pure sciences. So, you will find that there's a bigger gap from, combined science to JC science. And so it's really important if you're going to be the next doctor, you're going to invent a cure for cancer. Okay, then yes, please, go for pure science. But if you are someone whom you're like me, I'm more or less settled. I knew I was going to go to business school. I knew I was going to do accounting and at the poly level. If you're going to do things like design, media, okay, philosophy, in university, then of course you don't really need hard sciences or pure sciences to form, your L1, R2, B2, or your L1, R5. If you're going to art stream, if you're going to be the next, I don't know, Shakespeare's, okay, then yes, then you don't really need the hard sciences. You should focus more on your literature and your English and stuff like that. Okay, so then in order to take out some of the stresses from all these sciences, which is not going to be as relevant, then yeah, you can take combined sciences because the questions are usually easier to score and they're more straightforward. Okay, so it's a lot just more memory and just go to the exam and just regurgitate everything out, right? So that's the reason why we advise you, if you are not clear where you are, it's not advisable to take combined science, because if you do take pure, you can still become the next Van Gogh or something like that. You can still go into art stream. Okay, it's just that you can do both science and arts. But if you take combined, then and you want to go into science stream, then you realize that the gap is higher. So unless you're really sure, okay, I'm going to be the next Jack Ma, I'm going to do business, I'm not going to do anything to do with life sciences or hard sciences, then combined science is something that you might want to consider, to take some stresses off your starting for the O-levels. Okay, right. So let's look next. Yeah, and we'll move on to the subject combinations. But before that, teacher Shenming has something to announce.
Okay. Hi. Okay. So everyone has been listening for a while, right? So maybe can we get you all to do some typing, right? Some small activity. Can we just get the ground, right, to maybe share with us what do you all think is the subject that is the toughest? Okay. Or let me change the question. What is the subject that you think is the most relevant? Okay. What is the subject that you think is the most important in secondary school? Okay, maybe can we just have some answers? What subjects do you think is important that your child should take in secondary school? Okay, there's no right or wrong answers, right? So maybe just here. Okay, so we have some answers. Okay, we have A-Math. Okay, we have chemistry. Yes, right. So personally, right, I also think that A-Math and chemistry is one of the most important, right? But of course, just a note. Okay, this is what we feel, right? The students might feel otherwise. So be sure that time to time, please have some discussion with your children, right? So to ask them what do they want. Okay, give them some advice. There are actually many students out there, from what I know from my students, right, they actually, how do I put it? They actually always want to seek advice, but the first person they turn to is their friends, right? So maybe as parents, right, I think we can offer to take the first step, okay? Ask them what they want, what do they want to do in the future. Try to get to know their interests and stuff like that. You'll be good, right? Okay. Okay, for physics, right? Actually, physics also considered quite important, right? Because to me, I actually believe that physics, right, is that subject that will open many, many doors to all the careers out in Singapore. Okay, with physics, you can go engineering. With physics, you can go math. With physics, you can go computer science. With physics, you can go almost every industry, right? Okay, so yeah, physics is relatively important as well. Okay, thank you for sharing. So I don't see any bio. Okay, but it's okay. Yeah. Okay. If you know you are gonna be a life science, you want to be in life science, you want to do certain stuff related to life science. Okay, bio is important. Okay, so it's subjective to everybody. Okay, we have Okay, so yeah, okay, this question is good. So got one parent asked, is geography and history difficult, right? Okay, so maybe let me just share a bit, right? So for geography and history, right, your child will have the choice to do geography and history either as an elective or pure. Okay, so just a very brief and a very simple example to give you is elective job will be like a combined science, right? Pure job will be like a pure science. Okay, so is geography hard? Is history hard? My answer to you is yes, definitely it's hard. Okay, but my personal take is this: geography is actually quite related to science. Okay, geography is actually quite related to science in terms of physics. Okay, and maybe chemistry. So we would many of times people will find geography more relatable. And for history, right? History is a lot of facts, a lot of reading, a lot of global affairs and stuff like that, things that happened in the past. It requires a lot of memorizing as well. Okay, so in general, job history leads, they are called humanities because they require a lot of reading. And the exam format will require students to write many essays. Okay, so these are some things that you have to consider. If your student, if the student is somebody who really loves science, right, of course, we will encourage them to take more science. Then maybe we can take elective humanities. Okay, but if they are sure that they don't want to do science, they are more of a humanities person. Okay, they love job, they love lead. Okay, they are very good with they like to read certain books. Okay, understand the philosophy behind some books and stuff like that. Okay, lead is also a good subject they should go and take. Okay, so let me give teacher Tony the time to explain this subject combination, okay, of the 8 subjects to everybody. Okay, so teacher Tony, please take over. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So yeah, so students usually will be offered either to do 8 subjects or 7 subjects, right? Even though you only need like 5 or 6 for poly or JCE, I have no idea why. I think they just give you room for failure, just in case you mess up 1 or 2 subjects. But okay, but yeah, other than that, let me just share a bit. So the most, of course, the top choice is usually triple science. Because you take triple science, you already have 6 subjects, right? You take English, Chinese, A-Math, E-Math is already 4. And then you add your triple science is already 7. So that's why they will take elective humanities, because SS is a must, right? If you want to go GC, you must consider that subject into your L1, R5. And SS, there's no such thing as pure, right? It's only combined. You must combine with job, history, or lit. So if that's the case, then you only have 1 humanities subject. And depending on whether you're good in geography, history, or literature, you can choose that one to combine with SS to go for your subject combination. So this is really for those students who are really hard science people. They are really into the sciences and they want to be doctors or invent a cure for cancer, something like that. Or they want to invent a all variant COVID vaccine. Yes, please. Then please do all science and please save the rest of us. Okay. But if let's say you like science, but not all 3 branches of it, you like two kinds of science, and you don't like to deal with living things, or you like chemistry, but you don't really like physics. You're just choosing one or the other. But by the way, chemistry cannot choose, and you must take. So then you can take double science. Then you will have a bit of chance. Saying you have that extra load, right, to take 1 pure humanities, okay, to replace your triple science. So for example, like teacher Shen Ming, he took the hybrid stream, right? Instead of like science or art stream, he took like a hybrid stream. So if you're someone who is like that, you feel that you can do both and you want to do both, you don't want to lock yourself into one side, of the stream, then this would be a good combination for you. You take double science and then you take 1 pure humanities and 1 elective. So you sort of get a mix of both, just in case, like you don't know what you really want to choose, because you might be the one who invented a cure for cancer, but you might be the next Subhas Ananda, the famous lawyer. So you don't know, you could be either. So, but you're going to be someone great. Okay, so yes, then choose double science. Okay, because you're not sure really you're a science person or an arts person. Okay, yeah, and of course, if you choose double science, then you have to decide whether is it physics you want or is it bio you want, right, to go with your camp. All right. So some other students, fortunately or unfortunately, you'll be offered 7 subjects. Okay. Can we move on to the 7 subjects one? Okay. Yeah. So to be honest, I think it's actually a better move. Okay. I took 7 subjects myself because I was confident. Like, I know I'm not going to mess anything up. Okay, because I chose what I know I like and I can score. Okay, so if you have 7 subjects, then you can take so same lah, right? As earlier, you can take double sciences, and then you can take an elective, or you can take combined science. Okay, but because your science is combined, right, it's only one subject, so you need to take one pure humanities to go along with it. So how do you choose? Again, like I mentioned, it's really about what you want to do. So there's nothing wrong with taking triple science and then, just take one combined humanities. But if you want to be a lawyer in future, all right, I think studying history, studying social studies will be very important because it gives you context of how we come about, how we develop as a civilization to today, how this laws and democracy and all that, how it came about and how we became enlightened and all that. So I think that gives context. So when you study law in the future, you study history, you major in history or archaeology, for example. So these are good. These provide good context, right, for what you can do. So I just want to touch a bit on Irene's question about geography or history. Is it difficult? So it's really subjective. So for example, I love history. When I travel, I'm the first places I usually go to any new city is always the museum. That's why my family don't travel with me. They had enough of me wasting their time in museums. So yeah. For me, it's not difficult. I love to read. I love to watch documentaries on history, and I can remember dates very well. Okay, so like they will ask you like which year, when did Singapore fall to the Japanese and all that. I can give you the dates, instantly because it's just something that comes more naturally to me, right? And geography, it's a bit more like what teacher Sherman mentioned. It's a bit of science as well because they do human geography like migration, or they also do physical geography where they do like earthquakes and volcanoes and all that, right, at the higher levels. So it's really about what you like, because I think the thing about interest and competence is this: we can always, as teachers, right, we can always train you to a competent level as long as you want it, as long as you like it. We can always train you, but interest is a bit harder, okay, to manage. It's very hard to like something if you really don't like it. Okay, you can try to be less, you find it less repulsive maybe, but it's very hard to make you like something. That's what I personally feel, right? So I always feel that you should choose something that you like. Literature as well, is it difficult to score? Again, it depends on your critical skills. Like, are you the kind of person who can think out of the box, analyze something more deeply? Okay, of course, everyone will have a different interpretation of what Shakespeare's meant by that one sentence, okay? But I think as long as you're able to argue your point, as long as you're able to support your argument with valid context, okay? Like, it was during a time of this, and this is most probably what he meant, then I don't think there's a reason the examiner can take marks away from you, okay, for just because he or she disagree with you, all right? Okay, so these are the two sides that you can choose, right? 8 or 7, and then whether you choose combined or double or triple, then you have to alter your humanities along, okay, either pure or elective, so you can make up your subjects. Okay, right. So let's move on to the approaches that you have.
Okay, before we move on, right, just to let the parents know, right, be sure to understand that the electives here are just an example. There are many schools out there that offers different electives as well. Okay, things like your food and nutrition, okay, your D&T, right? And there's even one elective that's becoming more popular nowadays, right? Computer science, as well as your ESS, right? The sports and science elective, yeah. So different schools offer different kinds of elective. These are some things that if your kids are interested, they are free to explore as well. From what I know, some of the schools that offer ESS, right, the sports science studies, right, it actually can replace one of the pure science subject as well. Yeah, so different schools have different criteria. So if let's say your child is interested in them, be sure to check, okay? Okay, next we will move on to the next section. Okay, so after hearing so much, right, it boils down to which combination you should choose, right? So we are going to introduce 2 kinds of approach here. So let me just briefly share with you what is the top-down approach. Okay, after that, Teacher Tony will share with you what is the bottom-up approach, right? Both approach works, okay, but it really depends on whether or not you know your objective, okay, or you are unclear of your objective, okay, And then that will define what kind of approach is suitable for you. So for top-down approach, right, identify your goals and work your way up. Okay, what do I mean by that, right? So you most likely know what you want, right? My parents want me to be a doctor, right? I know that I want to be a scientist. I know that I want to be an accountant. Okay, I know what I want. Okay, so knowing what you want is a very good thing, because if let's say you know what you want, you know that that's your goal, you just have to work your way up, right? So choosing the right subject combinations that complements what you like, to complement the job that you are aiming for, okay, and slowly working your way up. So some questions that you can ask yourself, right, if you are using this top-down approach is, do you know some jobs out there that you find appealing, right? Like personally for me, when I was young, right, the reason why when I was in secondary school, why I took geography is because I knew that I want to become an urban planner in Singapore. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why I took geography and double science. So yeah, but of course that may change along the way, right? You do not have one fixed goal forever. Your goals can change, but of course, it's good to have a goal in mind first, right? And then next question you can ask yourself is, what is something that you can foresee yourself doing? Okay, can you foresee yourself doing this job? Okay, can you foresee yourself doing that job? Okay, it's good to imagine, put yourself in the situation and try to imagine, can you foresee yourself doing it? Okay, if you are doing it, will you be happy? Will you be all right, right? So if let's say you envision yourself doing this, then your next question you have to ask yourself is, what subjects then are relevant, right? If let's say you are going to be a doctor, you may want to focus a bit on biology and chemistry, okay? So stuff like that. And in general, right, you should try to find out what field in science, okay, are you interested in? Okay, if you are somebody who always like to read up on AI, artificial intelligence, you like to read up on nuclear physics, you like to read up on astrology, you like to study the planets, okay, and stuff like that, okay, these are actually good indications of what are some subjects that you should take as well, right? So this is for the top-down approach. Yep, so next, bottom-up approach. Mr. Teacher Tony, please take over.
Right. So of course, not everyone really know what they want to do. Like for example, when I was young, when I was at the age of 14, 15, I didn't know that one day, I'll be a teacher and I'll be helping other students, with their own struggles as well. So all I thought, because to me, my parents was, some jobs are not jobs. Okay, to my parents, flight steward is not a job. Okay, a photographer is not a job. Okay, these are good for nothing. Okay, you must wear a suit and you go to an office, that is a job. So that's why I had to choose. My selection was quite fixed, quite limited in that sense. So for me, sometimes, right, there is this thing called bottom-up approach. Bottom-up approach. That means you don't really know what you want to do in the future, okay, but you know what you're good at. So for me, I know I was good in accounting. I knew I was good in business. Okay, it's something that I can see myself doing. Okay, I'm very good with dollars and cents, basically. Okay, numbers, I'm very good at it. So I knew. So that's why I decided to go for accounting and all that. So I wasn't thinking that I might be an accountant one day. I just know it was something that I'm good at. Because let's think about it. Okay, accounting doesn't mean you must be an accountant. One day, nowadays, everybody can be an entrepreneur. You can just develop an app, right? You can develop something, right? Provide a service, and you can be your own entrepreneur. And accounting skills will still be useful. If you have your own business, you need to do your own accounting, right? You have to trust yourself. You don't you may not trust others to do your own accounts, but you will trust yourself. So I think it was a useful skill to have. So and if you don't know what you want, it's fine. You focus on your areas of interest. Okay, because sometimes knowing what you want and whether you're able to get there is two separate things. For example, like I like art. Okay, I love Van Gogh's art. I can look at his art for hours on end. But if you ask me to draw something, I'll probably fail. Okay, I can barely pass my art throughout my secondary school year. So I quickly dropped it. Okay, the moment I went to Sec 3. So it's something that I know I like, but I can't really get there. I know, it's just something that I don't have. So I have to focus on my strengths, and then you can just move forward. So for example, if you do business, right? It doesn't mean you must be a businessman, right? You can be a consultant in the future. You can always be a business lecturer in the future, right? You can always provide some advisory. You can always join our ministries, Ministry of Finance. You can always join IRAS as at the agency level. So the thing is, career options there are many career options. There is more than 1,001 career options. So if you don't know what you want, it's fine, because there will always be new career that come up. Like just 10, 20 years ago, an app developer, this title doesn't exist. There's no such thing as an app yet, right? When we were all using Nokia, for parents who know what I'm talking about. So we wouldn't know it exists. So you can't plan to become an app developer, if you were in primary one just several years back, right? Or in secondary school, because it just didn't exist. So sometimes the correct approach or the good approach is not think so far, because it may keep changing, especially nowadays with technology. New career options keep popping up, and career options die off because they become obsolete and all that. So I think the best thing for some of us is really just to focus what we can really do well, and then as we get there, there will always be career options for us.
Okay. Yeah. So adding on to Teacher Tony's point, right? I totally agree with what you say. Okay, there's no such thing as a dead end, right? So you sometimes you may feel that whether your choice you make this time around, is it the right one? Okay, you do not know whether your choice is a wise one. It may be right, okay, it may be wrong, but what's important is you have to understand that you do not need to worry, because every course you're going to take, right, will have your own employment opportunities. Okay, Singapore will not just leave you to die lah. Okay, for sure, this is definitely for sure. Okay, so now next move on to short activity. Okay, parents, if you are now together with your child, it'll be good if you can do this together with them, right? So this is a very simple exercise to help the students visualize what they want. Okay, help them to reinforce what they like. Okay, so that you can better make a decision. Okay, so this is just a template for you to fill out. Okay, so you have to fill in what's the industry interested. Okay, what is their current choice of post-secondary institution, and then followed by your choice of course, the stream. Okay, the subject combinations that will best help me get the choice I want. Okay, and the reasons for choosing this certain subject combination. Okay, you do not need to write down, but it will be good if you can verbalize this out with your child. Okay, so please spend some time. Let's give everyone maybe 3 minutes, okay, just to verbalize this out, okay, to help your child make better decision. Okay, and meanwhile, Teacher Tony will be giving you an example.
Right. So I just give you guys an example for my students. So I do have students who tell me, oh, I like design. Okay, I want to do design after my secondary school, and I will always tell them, design is such a big field. What kind of design do you want? Do you like fashion design? Do you like media design? Do you like advertisement kind of design? Yeah, graphic design. So, I will help them to narrow down that choice. So you see, the industry is it can be something that's very broad. Like, you're an artsy person, so you can just put down, design in the industry interested. And then you try to narrow down, what kind of design do you like? So this student of mine, he said, oh, I like graphic design. So I would tell him, okay, graphic design nowadays, of course, we're using computers. No one really use hand anymore, right, to draw. So you need to have good computer science knowledge. And as Teacher Sherming said earlier, if you want to go into computer science in the future, you need physics. Then okay, then I don't take bio, because physics will be more relevant compared to bio, right? If you want to be a graphic designer, because I'm not going to cut anything up or anyone up for that matter, right? So that's why you move. Then it helps you to know that, because since chemistry you can't choose, so chemistry will always be there, and then I will take physics to go along with it, either as a double science or as a combined science, because you look at your other subjects, are you able to score better for them, right? And then you will know. So my choice of course in this case will be more of art stream. If I'm going JC, I will take art stream, or if I'm going to Poly straight away, or NAFA or LaSalle for design, then yes, this is the institution that I want to go, and then this is the course that I want to take. So if you take a look at NAFA or even all the polytechnics, their design course, they have many kinds of design, right? They have environmental design to fashion design to graphic design. So that helps you to narrow down your choices. Then okay, I need to take my physics, I need to take and why, because it will be more relevant for me, right, in terms of computer science. Okay. Yeah, and you might want to take art, right, for your subject, for the humanities subject as well, because that is something that you will need, right, in order to get there for your design courses. So I think that is really very helpful if you sort of like filter down your choices from your industry, then to the sub-industry, and then to what kind of institution that you want to get you there, the courses, and then what subjects you need to get there.
Okay, so I hope everybody take maybe just 1 more minute, okay, to verbalize this. Okay, after 1 minute is up, we will move on to the next slide. Meanwhile, parents, if you have questions, right, or any advice that you need to seek, please pen them down in the chat now. Okay, and you can type in the Q&A box as well.
Okay, so while waiting for everyone to sort of do this activity, let me just share something about myself that I think might be useful that some people ask. So some people actually would like to go to poly or GC, or some people like to go to poly, and then they are worried that, if I choose this course, does that mean that I can't do something else in university? It's actually not true. Okay, of course that it locks you to certain courses, but it's not that narrow as you would think. Okay, so for example, if you decide to do like me, if you decide to do diploma in accountancy, it doesn't mean that I can't do something else in university. You can still do business, you can still do like media and all that. But of course, it will be a bit too late for me to choose medicine school, because I've had the last time I did anything bio was in secondary school, right? If I did take it. So yes, then in that case, you are sort of locked in that sense. Okay, but it's not like a true train. If I took accounting, I must take accounting in university. It is not always the case. Okay, another good example is, so you see, for me, I took accountancy in poly, and then I took business management in university. But yet for my master's degree, I took international relations, which is a political science. So one of the things that I could do was to work at the MFA, right, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's totally different from business, right, from accounting, but you can see it as related, because nowadays, as we can see, where with all this trade war going on, with all this international relations, you realize that business, economy is related to politics. So actually, a lot of things are more related, more intertwined than we think. So it is not really like a life and death thing. Like if I choose this, I'm stuck here. It's not totally true. Okay, so I just want to say that to ease some of the concerns that people have, because some people go JC. Of course, if you know what you want to go to medicine school, this is the path they will give you the highest chance to get into medicine school. Yes, by all means, I support you. But I hope people go into JC because they know where they're going after that, and not because, I go JC because I'm afraid that I'll get locked out if I go to poly instead. Yeah, I think this you should go where you want to go, and not go to A because you're afraid of B. That's my point of view.
Okay. Yep. So now let's move on. So next there'll be a quote, right? So sometimes you make the right decision, sometimes you make the decision right. So like what teacher Tony mentioned just now, it's very important that you have to take ownership of your own decision. Okay. So do not get affected by others. Okay. You make the decision, you make the decision right? So you see how like how I wanted to become an urban planner, right? But in the end, it did not turn out, right? Because as I grow up, I realized that I am leaning more towards teaching, okay, leaning more towards communication science, leaning more towards education in general. So now after I took ownership and dedicated myself to teaching, right? So same thing for everyone out here. You make the decision ready, you have to take ownership of your decision, okay? Let me tell you first, Sec 3 definitely is not going to be easy, okay? It's not going to be easy. Whether is it fun or not, yes, okay? You moving on to a new phase of life, Sec 3 is going to be fun, but it's not going to be easy. Okay, many students, what I realize many students do is during Sec 3, because they have new friends, right? So they tend to play too much, okay, and they didn't put in consistent effort, and then they start to suffer in Sec 3. When they move on to Sec 4, they start to suffer. Okay, it's not because they are not intelligent. It's not because that the subject combination that they chose is wrong. Okay, it's because they did not make their decision right. Okay, they chose to do the wrong thing at the wrong time. Okay, and they choose not to focus too much on their studies during Sec 3, which affected their Sec 4, right? So throughout this journey in Sec 3 that is upcoming, right? Okay, you'll face many difficulties, but please, okay, always seek help from people. Okay, be it your loved ones, be it your parents, be it your teachers, right? They are all there to help you. Okay, we are all here to try to help you make your decision right. Okay, so now let's move on to the Q&A session, right? I know it's already 8 o'clock, so appreciate if every parent, if let's say you have a question, please put it down in the chat. then we will answer them accordingly. Okay. Okay, so meanwhile, we're waiting for parents to ask any questions, right? So maybe let's just share with you our FAQ. Okay, so this is the FAQ section. Frequently asked questions, there are quite a few, right? So maybe Teacher Tony, can I choose one for you?
Sure, come.
Yeah, okay, so Teacher Tony, I'm not good at math. Should I take physics and A-math?
Oh, okay. Again, like we mentioned earlier, there's no right or wrong answer. Okay. So if you're not good at math, we need to look at how not good you are. Because some people, like I say, their parents are very high expectations. So I have students who tell me, oh, I'm not good, I'm only getting an 80 plus. Then so it really depends on how not good is you're not good. But for the benefit of doubt, let's just take it as when we say not good, we mean that you're just getting like a C5, C6, okay, at Sec 2. So some schools won't even let you take A-Math. Okay, you can't take A-Math unless you reach a certain grade. But let's say you are given that choice. You can take A-Math and you don't think you're going to make it. Okay, you don't think you can pass. Then of course I would think there's no point in taking A-Math. Okay, you can still take physics though, because I think physics is closer to E-Math than A-Math. Okay, because E-Math are things you can see in real life, right? Like geometry, graph, volume, shapes, and all that. So physics is more like that. We measure things that we can see, observable universe, right? So I would think that if you can still pass physics, still pass E-Math, I think you should take physics. But for A-Math, right, then you think about it. If you really think that you're going to struggle, then you can consider POA. Okay, it's not such a bad choice after all. I took POA myself, as I was telling to you, Shenming, and when I went to accounting, in accountancy in Ngee Poly, I had a very fun time laughing at my fellow classmates who took A-Math. They didn't understand anything about debit and credit, income statement and all that. I breezed through the first year because I took 2 years of POA. So it really doesn't, there's really no right or wrong. Okay, so if you're going to accountancy, I think taking POA will be more sensible than taking A-Math because it gives you a very good foundation. But if you're going to be an engineer, you're a family of engineer, then POA might not be as relevant as A-Math. So maybe you should still try to take A-Math, but then come to us for help, right? Then we will help you to ace your A-Math.
Yep. Okay. One common question that some students actually will ask me, right? They ask, hey teacher, what if I regret my decision for subject combination? Huh? So will it be too late? So what happens next, right? So it depends on what you mean by regret my decision. Okay. Are you regretting because you realize that this is not something that you want? Are you regretting because you realize that you can't cope, right? So if it was the former, right, if you regret your decision because you realize this is something that you do not like, right, is it too late? So the answer is it's going to be tough to change the subject combination midway, okay? This is a fact, right? But however, please understand that ultimately, right, usually as long as you score well for your subjects, if you do well for your O-levels, right, your post-secondary options will definitely be wider, okay? And there'll be more options for you to choose, that's for sure, okay? If your O-level results is not that good, then definitely you can already predict that your post-secondary options is going to be quite limited, right? Because many courses out there, many subjects out there that you want to take will be very limited because of your academic merit. If let's say you realize that you couldn't cope, let's say I took triple science. Oh, okay. Dang, I realized that too much work. Triple science is too much work. I can't cope. I am not scoring well for my chemistry. I'm not scoring well for physics. What should I do? Okay. One thing that the teachers will recommend at the end of Sec 3 when they find that the students are really struggling, okay, is to advise them to drop. Okay, to drop their pure science. So for example, if let's say you are taking triple science, right, you can always drop 2 of your pure sciences back into one combined science subject, okay? And that would definitely ease up a lot of workload and allow you to focus better, okay? So, yep, so it's all right. There is always a way out, okay? So anytime that you feel that you need help, just ask your teacher for advice, right? Okay? We'll definitely be more glad to help you, okay? Teacher Tony, you want to choose one more question?
For you, is it?
You can answer it lah.
Okay, I can say we're doing combined science. Okay, so some people they want to do combined science because they just find pure sciences a bit too much in terms of content, but they still want to go JC. So I do have students who are like that. So the answer is not necessarily. It depends on which stream you want to go. Like as we mentioned, if you're going into art stream, then it doesn't really matter very much because you'll be focusing more on geography, literature, and history. But if you want to go into science stream, okay, then again you need to pass your chemistry, as I mentioned earlier. If you don't make it for chemistry, I'm sorry lah, it's locked out. It's not an option anymore. But even if you do, okay, you do pass your chemistry and you get into JC, you can go into science stream. So does it affect your entry? No. But what it will affect is the gap that you feel. Okay, the moment they start year one, because JC is a very short time. You're only there for 1 year, 9 months, okay, 1 year, 10 months. So the moment they start, you really hit the ground running. So you might find that there's a very big gap. You have to bridge yourself between what you learn in combined science in secondary school and what they're teaching at the GC level. So it's unless you're prepared to do that bridge, right? Just in case you go into science stream, yeah, then combined science is something you should not consider if you are very sure you want to go into science stream. All right. Okay, I see a question here. If my son is taking pure chem and pure physics, but he didn't do well, can he change to combined science? Because combined science is made of physics and physics, chemistry, and biology, but he has no basic on bio. Let's see whether teacher Shenming has something to say about that. Teacher Shenming, are you there? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
hang on.
He took he took pure chem and pure physics, okay, but he didn't do well. So he want to drop to combined physics and chem, or chem and bio. But he has no basic on bio. Do you have any advice for that?
If you are taking pure chemistry and pure physics, right, and if you were to decide to drop to combine, so ultimately it'll be 2 subjects becoming 1. So you'll be taking combined physics and chem instead. There'll be no bio.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Right.
I see that there are some questions in the Q&A as well. So one teacher asked, one parent asked, what happens if the student fail E-Math? Okay. So Teacher Tony, you want to take this question, or I can take it?
We can both give our own input.
Okay.
So let me start. Let me start first. So email is really very crucial. I'm very sorry to say it, but it is something that Singapore focus on very much, in this part of the world. So if you don't pass your E-Math, you will find yourself unable to go to JC. That's for sure. And but the thing is, it's not a dead end. Okay, you can still go to some courses in polytechnics. I've checked. Okay, they can accept a score as low as D7. Okay, for E-Math. So you can still get in if you just fail by a bit. Okay, but of course, you can't get an F9, right? So if you get D7, some courses in poly is still open to you, maybe like media, design, and all that. And of course, if your son or daughter is an art student, it is not so much of a requirement in NAFA and LaSalle. I've checked as well. Okay, so it really depends on what they're passionate about. So if they're passionate about other things that's outside of math, then yeah, of course I still wouldn't recommend failing. Okay, I always recommend that you should find someone for help. Come to us for help if you are not passing your E-Math. But if let's say he is really interested in science courses, you want to do something related to science, then I'm so sorry, but he cannot fail his E-Math. So it's something that you have to come for help. All right, Teacher Shenming, anything on your end?
Yeah. Okay. So just to add on, right, for E-Math, like what Teacher Tony said, is really very important. There are some schools out there, right? There are Sec 2 promotional criteria, right? Sorry. Their Sec 3 promotional criteria is for a pass in E-Math, an overall pass in E-Math. Okay, for certain school, maybe for those students who are in the express stream. So, so to promote to Sec 3, maybe they will look at things like you have to pass your English and you have to pass your E-Math, right? So if let's say the student really can't do well for E-Math, one option is to redo secondary 3. It may be a good thing, it may be a bad thing, depends on how you see it. Okay, of course, the good thing is that the student now has 1 more year to brush up the concepts for the E-Math, right? to give given a second chance to do better in E-Math and to seek relevant help so that they can score better for E-Math for the next round. But of course, 1 year, there's extra time, right? So definitely we try not to go there. So students, if you know that you are struggling in certain subjects, okay, always seek help early. Okay, ask your teachers for help, ask your parents for help, right? Don't try to keep everything to yourself, right? I know that there are some students out there, even though they are struggling, they keep it to themselves, they do not share their troubles with their parents, right? But sometimes, okay, try to open up, it will really help you. Okay, so in general, E-Math is really very important. Okay, we have one more question. So my child's Sec 1 math score is very weak. I'm not familiar with Sec 2 math. Does Sec 2 math rely on Sec 1 math as the foundation? Is E-Math similar to... Okay, let me answer the question one by one first. So does Sec 2 math rely on Sec 1 math as foundation? The answer is a resounding yes, okay? Because in secondary 1 math, right, it goes through the basics of all the algebra manipulation, okay, all the fractional algebraic equation, and as well as some basic concepts of mensuration or your volume and stuff like that. Okay, and so if the Sec 1 foundation is really not good, definitely when you move on to Sec 2, whereby there are higher level algebraic manipulation, right, the kid will definitely suffer. Okay, it's a resounding yes. So the Sec 1 math has to be good, okay, because Sec 2 math will rely on Sec 1 math. Okay, next question is E-Math similar to Sec 1 and similar to...
Yeah, I think he or she meant like whether E-Math is similar to Sec 1, Sec 2 math. Yeah, so Sec 1 and Sec 2 math, at Sec 3 we call it E-Math. We don't call it math anymore. It's either E-Math or E-Math. Yeah, so yeah, it is similar in terms of the requirements. Like the algebraic manipulation will still be there at a higher level, right? You'll still be learning mensuration, coordinate geometry. So these are things you also learn in Sec 1 and Sec 2. Yeah, so E-Math is what they call math at the normal math, right? At Sec 1 and Sec 2 math. At Sec 3, they call it E-Math. So yeah, it's along the same path. Okay, and
also, right, to answer the last question, right? So do the students have to revise Sec 1 math during their upcoming school holidays? To answer this question, there isn't a need, okay? Because, right, for example, if your student is in Sec 2, right, when you revise your Sec 2 topics, it will already comprise of... You'll be equivalent to revising Sec 1 as well, okay? Because usually for Sec 2 math questions, right, when they do all the part A, right, all the part A usually they are more or less likely to be secondary 1 math level, right? So when attempting Sec 2 math questions, right, you will definitely be revising Sec 1 math as well. Okay, so when do you know that you have to revise Sec 1 math is when you are doing all the Sec 2 math, you realize that the basic algebra manipulation, the basic concepts, all this, the student is still struggling, right? Is because most likely their Sec 1 foundation is not good. Okay, in that sense, right, then of course it will make sense to revise Sec 1 math. So it depends on the situation. Okay, over here, if let's say you all require further in-depth sort of like advice on whether you need our help to take a look at where your student is weak at which topic and stuff like that, okay, we can take this offline, right? Okay, yeah, okay, Teacher Tony, yes?
Yep, all good.
Okay, so I think if that's all the questions that we have, right, maybe we can call it a night. Okay, it's already 8:15. Okay, thank you everyone for attending and staying with us all the way to this timing. Okay, I really appreciate your participation as well, and we are very glad that we have this opportunity to share with everybody. Okay, I hope you definitely have something to take away tonight. Okay,
all right, thank you, Carol, for the compliment. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, one last question, right? So does it mean that the kid need to be good in Sec 2 in math in order to do well in Sec 3? Definitely yes. Okay. For Sec 2 going to Sec 3, right? If you want to take Sec 3 A-Math, one criteria that is common throughout the schools, right, is that your Sec 2 normal math, right? Sec 2 normal math have to be at least 65% and above. Okay, so if the student doesn't hit the requirement, then they will not be offered A-Math. If the student hit the requirement, they'll be offered A-Math, but of course they can still choose not to do A-Math, right? Depending, this is really up to them. If a student does not hit 65% overall for Sec 2 math, right, I would suggest that they do not be complacent, okay? Even though, yes, moving on to Sec 3 math is just one level higher, but I think they still have to do well. They have to revise their Sec 2 math in order to score well in Sec 3 math. It's a yes.
Oh, do we teach A-Math, E-Math, and Sec 3 science, the 3 sciences?
Okay,
Yes,
to answer this
E-Math?
question, right, yes, we do. Currently, right, we are not opening any biology classes because of the low uptake. Okay, usually in most schools, when students are offered bio, right, is when the students have to take triple science. So you can imagine in a school, right, how many students will take triple science, actually quite low. So currently we do not open bio classes, but of course if there's a need, then we do. Currently right now, we do teach A-Math and E-Math up to Sec 3 and Sec 4, as well as physics and chemistry, pure and combined, we do teach. Okay, so if let's say you are interested, please maybe can contact the BlueTree admin. Okay, drop us a email. Okay, or at the website there's a contact us section.
Yep.
Okay, if that's all, then really thank you everybody. Okay, we will end the webinar now. Okay, good night.
All right, thank you everyone. Good night.
Okay, thank you, Teacher Tony.